This is the Because Fiction podcast, where we chat about all things Christian fiction. I'm your host, author, and insatiable reader, Shatona Havoc. And guys, we have back with us, like literally just seconds ago, because we just got done recording a one that came out a couple months ago. But that's okay. That's okay. We're here to talk about a different series with Suzanne Woods Fisher. I'm so excited. This series, oh boy, it is so cool. I mean, first we had the bear, and now we have a love triangle, no less, and multi-generational characters. When I saw that, I about danced. So welcome back, Suzanne. And yeah, let's talk Chase the Light, because I was excited to see this.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much. Well, Chase the Light is book 2 in my National Park Summers series. Book 1 was called Capture the Moment, and that was set in the Grand Teton. And that did very, very well. And it's a great story if you love the West and bears and wildlife and rangers and all that. Book 2 is set actually in Acadia National Park. And
Isn't that, wait a minute, is that in Maine?
yes.
Okay.
And on
Good.
the coast,
Right. At least I've got my bearings. Okay, go.
very, very different from a Western setting
Yeah.
with, elk and moose and bears. This is really an ocean story, a national park that's set in an ocean. It's so cool. And it is a beautiful, beautiful park that I hope is on everyone's bucket list. But this story is about a ranger named Scout Johnson, who takes her work very, very seriously. She's a little Southern girl and super professional. And the only way, and very, athletic and hardworking and willing to do whatever she needs to do. But she always has a pink ribbon in her hair, which I just love that about her.
That's awesome.
Well, and she's an interpretive ranger. They're called interps. And she has worked her way to this job because the way you sort of rise in the National Park Service is sideways from lesser known parks until you hopefully get the position you want, or at least get to the park you want to be in. And Acadia has been where she's had her eye on it since she was a child. She loves Acadia. So she finally has it. And she is the interpretive ranger for the Baker Island Lighthouse tour, which is an actual tour, and she takes people out and tells them all about the history of the lighthouse. Really interesting. And as she's heading back, she sees like a loose brick in actually where they kept the oil for the lighthouse, and she just closes it up, but she notices that loose brick. And behind the brick, there's like an envelope, old envelope, and in it is a newspaper clipping and a confession. And the newspaper clipping is about a shipwreck that occurred on the night that the lighthouse went silent, went dark, and a written statement saying, "I did this." And there were, it's just, the story unfolds with who did this and how and what. And it turns out, as they found information about the shipwreck, that there was gold that had never been found. But in this letter are clues as to where the gold is hidden around the park. So that they've got to move fast to figure out, she and the chief ranger, how to find that gold, if there's gold still, if this is really true, before the park finds of it. There's a newspaper person who's already on the story, and they rope in an indigenous man named Naki Dana, Naki is his name, who knows the park like it's his backyard. And he is this extremely tall, quiet, still waters run deep kind of a Native American man, and helps Scout little by little crack this. Lots of problems along the way. But I had so much fun with this story, and it's very different from Capture the Moment, which had a lot of suspense in it. This has a lot of, in some ways, suspense, but kind of people suspense, like what happens next and next and next.
And a little bit of adventure here. You're on a treasure hunt.
Okay, I like that. Thank you. Yes, that helps me put words to it. This is one of my first interviews, so it's fun to kind of capture it. But what's fun is that when I turned my manuscript into my editor, she read the story, loved it, which was so fun because she got back to me really quickly. And usually it takes a long time, which is not a bad thing. It's just when it's fast, that really makes me happy because that means there aren't a lot of revisions. And she said, "I want to get a sensitivity reader on this." So it was actually sent out to a sensitivity reader. I didn't even know there were such things. I would love to start to a Native American who read for just making sure that I presented things well of the Penobscot Nation, that I was clear, that I used the right wording because it's always changing,
Yeah.
and it came back clear. I just had to change like one little tiny thing. But that's
Oh,
just a little bit of
that's
the
impressive.
kind of fun backstory to this. And I guess the indigenous people, well, I'm rambling a little bit, so please interrupt if I'm rambling too much. But
No, no.
part of, as I study the national parks, and I have such a love for them. I love that they unite us as Americans in a way at a time when our country is so divided. But you can't be in a national park without feeling pretty proud of your country.
Yeah.
And yet there is a story behind what we see today, which is the indigenous people story. And I really encourage people when they go to these parks to look for that story as well, because that's part of the history and we should know it. We should respect it and honor it.
Yes. Okay. So Acadia is it's so funny because everybody talks about Yellowstone, which don't get me wrong, Yellowstone is fabulous. And everybody talks about Yosemite. And I've been to Yosemite. It is fabulous. There's so much. But as a kid, when I first started looking at different parks, I stuck to the West. I didn't know there were any in the East. I
Mhm.
just didn't know. And so I was looking at all those things. And I remember, I don't know. It's probably only been 25 years or so that I even heard of Acadia. And I don't know if it was a national park then. I don't know when it became a national park,
Yeah,
but
it's one of the first.
what is it? Okay,
Yeah,
so I didn't know. So because like Joshua Tree, when I was a kid, that was a national monument. It was
right.
not a park.
They changed. I
And
mean, Pinnacles just became a national park. It had been state. I don't know if it was state, but Pinnacles is now like number 63 of all our national
oh
parks. So
wow.
things are
That is
changing all the time. Muir Woods, I think, had been a, I don't know if not Muir Woods is a national park or a national site. I mean, there are 400
right.
sites and 63 parks.
But when I found out about Acadia, it was the one that I was like, this. I mean, seriously, that one is my bucket list park. I have no other parks on my bucket list. It is that one. It has been that one since I discovered it. And yeah, but I have this crazy desire to go to Maine in winter, like sometime maybe around November, and stay there through April. Just me on the coast in a little house somewhere, and that's it. If there's an island off the coast, that would even be better. Just me. I want to do it for 6 months and just be there and get a feel for what that is like. I don't know. There's something wrong with me. I'm okay with that. I just I want it so bad.
You really want to stay 6 months? Like,
I want to stay through just all the worst of the cold, freezing weather. I just want to do this. I know I'm weird.
no, you're not weird. Actually, John Muir, I don't know if you know this story, but he actually climbed during a violent storm, climbed to the top of a tree, some kind of pine tree, to just experience the storm. And
Yeah.
and he was not a stupid man. He took risks, but he was not a stupid risk taker.
No, it
And
wasn't.
he just felt the excitement, the kind of meeting creation as it's being created. He just
Yeah.
had to do that. So that sounds a little bit like you.
I want it so bad. I know, but I just do. And you know what? It may happen. I may be 70 when I do it. And I may break a leg and die there. But you know what? What a way to die.
You know what I think
It's just like
so Tanya, you
bucket
know what I
list death.
think really will happen is I think you'd last maybe a week. And then, okay, that was fun. That was enough.
I'm crazy introverted. I go weeks without leaving my house. So I would probably make it at least a month just because of who I am. I
Well,
just I
it's so
love it.
it's so cold and dark,
Yes,
you know.
with fireplace and I come think about it. I'm up all night. I sleep during the
I
day. I
know
mean,
you would do well. Okay. I
it's so weird, but yeah, it's a thing. So, okay, we're going to cycle back though because you talked about she is an interpretive
Ranger.
ranger. What does that mean?
Well, she's really kind of in a way she's kind of giving the historical background to
Okay.
the Baker Lighthouse, and different rangers have like their different positions. There's law enforcement rangers, there's interpretive rangers that you might meet them at the visitor center or in one of the sites. that are giving you educational information about things. There's a lot of different roles within. There's a bear manager at Grand Teton. They're handling bear jams. I mean, so there's so many different opportunities to kind of be the person you're meant to be as a ranger. But I will say one thing, I just learned this. Every single ranger wears that iconic hat,
Right.
and they have a leather band around their hat. And on that band are sequoia pine cones. Every single ranger in the United States.
Really?
Yeah, isn't that neat?
That is so cool.
No, and
That is like the best part about writing is finding out these things that you would never have otherwise. How would you have even found out
yeah,
if you weren't, it is so cool.
I had
And I gotta say, the other one, Capture the Moment.
yes,
There is a couple on YouTube. They're from Ireland. They're traveling the U.S. in a camper van that they bought. It's like 30 years old, and they're just they love America so much. They're just experiencing all the things. They fell in love with Oregon, they fell in love with Utah, they fell in love with everything except for, I'm not sure, Death Valley was their favorite. I can't imagine why. And but it's like, what can you say? But I mean, they're just having so much fun, and the one thing that they wanted so badly was to see a bear. They were just, and guess where they saw one? They saw one over in that area. I'm just pointing it out. But I wanted to send them Capture the Moment so bad
that's so
because I was
kind.
like, they would totally get this. But I had no
Yes,
way. I mean, come on, they're traveling in a van. Where do I send a book? But I
yes,
wanted to send it so bad I couldn't stand it.
that's fun. I'm glad to hear that. I have a friend whose daughter married an Irishman, and he will not come to the United States because he feels we're such a violent country, which is sad. I'm sad, but then I hear stories, and I can see why what heads up in the news and gets sent overseas could really reflect badly on us. The good stories don't
Yeah.
seem
Well,
terrible.
and because it is unusual. It's like air crashes. They happen every day, but they don't too when you compare them with the number of car crashes. There's just nothing like, remember I think it was the beginning of last year, or was it the beginning of this year? There was like one plane crash after another. We kept seeing them in the news everywhere.
Yes, yes, you're right.
I went I went and looked up the FAA statistics. There were fewer plane crashes at that time than there were in comparable time periods in previous years. But for
Interesting.
some reason, they made the news.
Yeah,
Isn't that
interesting.
weird?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah, that was last year. It was definitely last year because this is only January 8th. Okay,
yeah.
I know what I'm doing now. But it's that kind of thing, though. The unusual makes the news. The reason a school shooting makes the news is because, not that it's horrible. That is true. It's horrible and terrible, and it should make the news, and we should do something about it. I'm not saying that. But
Yeah,
if
yeah.
it happened all the time, it would no longer be news.
Yes, good point.
And I think that's something that gets lost in the translation somewhere across that pond.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I watch a lot of these Europeans that come over and are just fascinated with the U.S. and they're always really concerned about guns. Like, are they going to see them everywhere? They're terrified, and they
Mhm.
get here and they're like, I was there for 2 weeks. I didn't see a single one except on a cop. You know, it's like, yeah, yeah. Now there may have been people who had them, but they have a concealed carry permit, and they're if you stay out of the areas where they don't care about law, you're not usually going to see people breaking it. Ah, which is another reason I love to read your books, because then I get to go to Acadia National Park and I get to deal with lost treasure instead of, inner city people just hurting so badly. And I guess I want to fix that, but I also want the escape of going to find a treasure in Acadia.
Oh, I think you would love Acadia. It's a very different kind of a park because Bar Harbor Island it is there, and that's where the town Mount Desert Island in Bar Harbor. There's the town on Mount Desert Island. So an island is part of the park. Several islands are part of the park. Waters are part of the park. In fact, that's a lot of the crux of the story: is who does the gold belong to? If it's found within the National
Yeah.
Forest Service, is it the national parks? So that becomes a bit of a snag I will let you know at least some of the
Yeah.
gold still showing up. But
Can I say I also love the fact that this is Chase the Light and your journalist, your charming local journalist, it says, his name is also Chase.
that was accidental. And I feel a little, I was actually going through my final proofs and thought, what was I thinking? But I wasn't. The title comes last, like the book's in, it's so,
Yeah.
yeah, but Chase is a perfect name for him. And Fletcher is sort of an old Maine name. And he's
Yeah.
very traditionalist. He's as much of a Mainer as Scout is a Southern Belle, which she is horrified if anyone calls her a Southern Belle, but she is.
I love it
She's
so
living
much.
there under her hat.
That is so cool. Okay, so in this series though, you're doing national parks.
Yes.
How many are we going to get?
We are going to get at least one more, and you mentioned Yosemite, and that's going to be my third, and I'm actually about halfway through it now, writing it. I chose Yosemite. There's so many, I like, you can't pick wrong, but I chose Yosemite because it is so iconic, and I
Yeah.
really wanted to address more about John Muir. I live up in the San Francisco Bay Area. John Muir is a big part of our area, so much so that our
Oh yeah.
healthcare system is all named after him. The hospital where we go to is the John Muir
Right.
Hospital. His home is not far from us. And so, in some ways, I just felt I usually am always having to write back east or in the South where my readership tends to be, the Midwest. And it was like, I really think Yosemite. I want to be here. I
Yes.
want to, it's in my backyard. I've been there a couple times just for research. I want to go again pretty soon in more the winter, kind of like you. I don't want to stay 6 months, but I will. I would like to be there in the winter and hear like the crack of the spray
Yeah.
of the waterfall freezes in the night, and when the sun hits it in the morning, it sounds like a boom. And
Yeah.
all these,
Well, and there is what is it? El Capitan is like breaking off. There's a piece that's breaking off.
oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, there's a crack. They saw it. It was only like a quarter of an inch a couple years ago, a year ago, something like 18 months, something like that. And now it's like 4 inches wide. It's huge. You should
Um,
go look it up. It's fascinating.
I am totally good timing too, because maybe I'll write it into the story. When I did,
Right? I mean, there could be a connection in here that would be like really cool. I'm just
yeah,
saying.
yeah.
My daughter went there for her bachelorette party. They all went to Yosemite.
Mm.
And so and she got married in September, so that was what, August, so it's been a oh, they went on
Part of
Labor Day weekend, actually.
Yeah, but a part of your life, and it's like so many people. And this is, Yosemite was in the 1860s. Abraham Lincoln protected Yosemite, which was incredible that he had the foresight to do that. He'd never been and never did make it. And yet he protected that land. It didn't become a national park for many decades later because the National Park Service hadn't even begun till 1913. But fascinating to just think of the history of it. There's this incredible picture I'm sure everybody knows of John Muir and Theodore Roosevelt in Yosemite. And it's just a small picture, but they're talking together in this great vantage point. And this is like the birth of the national parks they're talking about. And under the sequoias up in the Mariposa Grove is where they talked more. Later, there was Stephen Mather, who was the very first director of the NPS, and this is before there was an NPS. In the early 1900s, or actually 1912, I think, he gathered all these businessmen and congressmen and took them on a 2-week, just lavish camping trip through Yosemite. You know,
Ooh.
you can imagine chefs coming along and all that.
Oh,
And he
wow.
had his audience, and he convinced them to put their support behind the idea of Congress creating the National Park Service. A year later, they did. So Yosemite is just such a important part of the National Park Service, and I just love
Yeah.
that place. It's so many. It's so large. It's the size of Rhode Island, and it's just
Yeah.
so beautiful and so special. But I'll tell you one thing about El Capitan. I was there just recently for what I called a day dash to kind of get a little bit of research done. And at the end of the day, I went back to El Capitan's meadow across. There's a meadow that you face the big, huge granite of El Capitan, and you
Right.
watch
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of a common thing. You come and you watch the people that are climbing set up for the night because it takes them a couple days or more to get up that face. And there was a photographer there camped out with like, obviously he'd been there a long time. He had all the equipment and all the chairs and we just asked him a little bit, who was he watching? And he pointed and he said, see right about there, that's my wife. And then he said, we just found out she's 2 weeks pregnant, or 2 weeks ago they found out she was pregnant.
Oh,
And
wow.
Shatana, I've been worried about her ever since, but I figure she made it. Oh, it would have been in the news if she didn't. But I can't believe that. Can you imagine
No, I
watching
can't.
your
I
wife,
can't.
newly pregnant, just rappelling up the side of this
Yeah.
enormous granite wall? Day after day, he'd been there 3 days and she had probably three to go.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's crazy. Well, and if she's very, very newly, it's probably the safest time in a whole pregnancy to do it. But boy, although if she's really, really newly pregnant, she may not have morning sickness anywhere near her for a while. So that was also probably pretty good. But yeah, I feel like I should be praying for her.
I know, I do every time I think of her. But I think all the things you just said were probably all the arguments she gave her husband.
Yep. It's really funny. I can see my daughter that went there for her bachelorette party. I could actually see her doing this. I could see her
Yeah.
going, I am not going to be able to do any rappelling for a while. We're going to Zion now. We got to start climbing because I've got to do this while I can because, give me 2 months and I'm not going to feel like it. So let's go now. Let's go. I can see
Yeah.
her do it because that's what they do that. Her husband is a search and rescue guy. And
Oh,
so their first date, he took her rappelling.
wow. Oh,
He decided that she might work out when he was like, "Oh, it's probably time to get going so we can go to dinner." And she's like, "Can we go out one more time?"
oh. Oh. Get the ring on the finger. That's a girl for
Yeah.
me.
And you know what? Get this, her engagement ring it is one of the mountain ranges that they've been to. It's just a
Oh,
little band and it's got the shape of the mountain range on it.
beautiful.
His tie at the wedding was a geo whatever map of the very spot right in the center of the very spot where he proposed. That's what he wore. That
Oh, classy.
they're just so cute. They're just so adorable. But yeah, so I could see this. I could see so cool. So we're gonna go there and so what are we gonna do to convince you is this a Bethany or is this a Ravel?
This is Ravel. All my books have been with Ravel. And
Okay, so what are we gonna do to convince both of you to make books 4 and 5? Because I really want 5.
oh, Katana, I would love a whole nother series of the national parks because I feel like you just scratched the surface. There is
Yeah.
so much, and it's so good for Americans. It's just so good for us.
Yes.
It's healthy and good, and it's what we look at our history and we just think this we did well, to protect
Exactly.
these lands and protect the wildlife. And they're there for
I,
generations. We hope they'll be there for our great, great, great grandchildren.
Exactly. Exactly. So we do need more. Okay, so in this series though, for readers, I don't care if you talk about series or each individual book, maybe it's better for each book or whatever, but if readers could take something faith-wise away from that particular book slash or series, what would you want that to be?
Well, I think probably each book would be a little bit different. They are a little bit younger main characters. So you mentioned intergenerational, and I do have an older chief ranger who's kind of been a part of each book. And he's a good guy. He's almost like a bishop, an Amish bishop. He's kind of in the background, just has the wise words, but he's also tough. And he's like a father figure, I suppose. And then you've got also these teenagers in the story too. So you do have a lot of different points of view, which I like. I think that makes stories
Yes,
interesting.
I love multiple points
I
of view.
do.
They
I
make me so
do.
happy.
And I love hearing older stories that have older people in them. I think there's a lot
Yes.
they've learned in life. So in some ways, with my contemporary series, I am looking for a younger audience. And I think with that, I don't come off quite as strong as I might in an Amish book. An Amish book, I can kind of use that clear faith. People are generally not reading Amish unless they have a faith.
Right.
But these contemporary series, I really like the questioning. I like the fact that you can bring your questions in that God can handle this, that there's a good God out there who is looking for you and longing for you. And I think
Right.
that's a lot of the story, that things kind of come together, that God is sovereign, though it may be more subtle than, like I mentioned with the Amish. But the way the story kind of folds together at the end is the way a lot of stories in our life do. We're sort of full
Right.
circle, and you see, have the eyes to see, oh my goodness, that's what God was doing. He was
Yeah.
bringing me back to something I'd been hiding from or running from.
Well, and when you're dealing with, because this is where my brain was going. When you're dealing with God's creation, these national parks, this is what God said, this is good. And they're preserving this is goodness. Just the fact that there is so much nature involved, it's going to, it's going to be the rocks crying out and the streams dancing and everything that scripture talks about, it's there. And so I always wonder, just everybody takes something different away from nature. I have friends, it used to just absolutely shake me. They were afraid of nature. They were afraid to be in the trees or touch a like mossy rock or something, because ew, what could be on there. And I never understood it as a kid, because I grew up and my dad's hauling me through the desert all the time. He's eating stuff as he goes along to find out if it tastes any good. And so this, outside of him dancing like a little girl at the sight of a scorpion, he's like fearless, right? Picking up rattlers with his hands, because why not? And but it's really funny to think of a guy holding a rattler in his hand is the same guy who saw a scorpion and seriously did a Highland flame. It just what? But nature, God is. I'm so careful. I don't want to say God is there. He is, but then it starts sounding very nature worshipy, and that's not what I mean. But he put his whole creation out there. It reflects Him. It has to. It can't not. And when you've got a book, when you're focusing on these parks, that comes out. Even just like that, them wanting to get that photo of that bear, God came out in that. You know what I mean?
I appreciate so much you saying that, because I feel that the park is almost one of the main characters in every book.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They have a personality, they have a distinctiveness, they have a uniqueness. There is so much variety. And I love that they all reflect God's great capacity, just this enormous capacity, from Death Valley to Mesa Verde to dry tortugas to pinnacles to Yosemite to Acadia and the water and the ocean. So yes, I love. I am embarrassed that I didn't highlight that, because you are so spot on that nature is one of the main themes of this story that points to this great God we have.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you wrote that. Karen Barnett
Yes.
wrote a that was more set in like the 20s series for the parks, and those were so much fun. And I feel like she's also written a couple that are like split time. One was in the Smokies, one I don't remember where the other one is, but
Yeah,
it's
she does
somewhere.
historical, kind of a little more of a
Yeah,
historical
she's
blend.
she's kind of done some stuff there, and I love them, but we don't have enough. It's her and you right now. I can't think of. I'm sure there are others who have. Don't get me wrong, but I can't think of anyone but you and her. We need more, especially this is our 250th anniversary year. We need way more.
Yeah, I agree. I'm listening to an owl hoot right now as you talk, and I feel like I
Ah,
hear like even nature just.
yeah. He's like, I am going to sing God's praise. Woo! Uh, this is so cool. This is so cool. Okay, so the next book in this series, when will we be seeing that one? This one comes out May 5th, but what about this third one in Yosemite?
That'll be next May, also, so May
Next May.
27.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm just a
And you'll come back and tell us all about it, right?
yes, of course. I will make sure you get a copy. Thank you so much, Shatana.
I'm so excited. I'm just so, so, so excited. Oh boy. Okay. So where should readers go to find out, to get news that it's coming, to get to see that cover right away? Guys, these covers are so stinking cool.
They
You
are
need to hit
so
pause and
cool.
go to Amazon, check them out. Or better yet, go to Baker Bookhouse, pre-order this sucker while you still can and get it at 40% off with free shipping. Seriously, it's less than $12. It's just barely over. It's like 11.16 or something like that, with free US shipping too. So I mean, you
No.
can't lose.
No, and if you pre-order, we're gonna have a lot of author swag in it too, which is fun. So
Yay!
I would really encourage readers to go to my website at www.suzannewoodsfisher.com. Sign up for my newsletter. It is where I like to do I always tell my readers, good stuff is coming. It's because that's where I like to show them the reveals and the contests and the swag giveaways and flash sales and things like that. And you can always unsubscribe, but give it a try. I think you might really enjoy it.
I'm going to throw in, because it's the first time I've said it this year, so I'm going to throw it in. It's been a while, except that it might have been said before this came out, because this isn't coming out until a few months from now. Anywho, I'm still saying it. When you sign up for those newsletters and you get, I think I've got 200 authors that they come in all the time. I don't read I read all the subjects. Always read the subject. And if there's even a hint, then I save it, I move along, and then I skim it in a minute. I don't read every word in every one every single day. But because they're coming in, I'm aware, but when those subject lines say, pre-order is up, I'm like clicking, or if it says, XYZ book is on sale, I'm clicking. If it says, I just found this cool information while I was researching, I'm clicking. If it says, hi, how are you doing? If I've got 30 others that day, I might not be clicking, but that's okay, because you can hit delete and there'll be another one next month or next week or next quarter, depending on the author. It's okay. If you don't want it, absolutely unsubscribe. There's no guilt there, but don't feel guilty for not reading every word of every single author that comes into your inbox. That's my point.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, well, Suzanne, I have taken up a whole bunch of your time tonight.
No, such a help. Thank you so much, Shatan. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
I've had a blast. And guys, I'm going to say have a good day. She has a whole bunch of great books. If you haven't read The Cape Cod Creamery, you want to read those. If you haven't read The Quakers on Nantucket, can't remember the name of it, but those, you want to read those. If you haven't read her Amish, she writes the best Amish. So I'm just saying, she's got a lot available for you. So go find a good book, and yeah, I will chat with you guys next time.